This week in Introduction to Linguistics, we are turning our attention from morphology to syntax. Morphology, we learned in Chapter 4 of our textbook, A Concise Introduction to Linguistics, is the study of the structure and classification of words and the units that make up words. Syntax, we will learn in Chapter 5, is the study of the set of rules used to form units of language larger than words. So basically, we're shifting our focus from the making of words to the making of phrases, clauses, and sentences. If, like me, you did not have teachers in elementary, middle, or high school who required you to diagram sentences, phrase structure trees and phrase structure rules can be two of the more intimidating topics that are covered in our chapter on syntax. I mean, what do all those abbreviations like S and NP and VP stand for? What do the branches in that tree indicate? And what are the phrase structure rules that can accompany one of those trees? Well, there's no need to feel at all intimidated if you take a careful look at the information that Rowe and Levine provide in our textbook. First, to understand what all those abbreviations stand for, take a look back at the section at the end of Chapter 4 on lexical categories, parts of speech. In the 5th edition of A Concise Introduction to Linguistics, that section starts on page 94. In the 4th edition, it starts on page 103. In the table in this section, you'll find almost all the abbreviations you will see in phrase structure trees, as well as definitions and examples of the lexical categories they stand for. As a quick review, N stands for noun, PRO stands for pronoun, ADJ stands for adjective, DET stands for determiner, V stands for verb, ADV stands for adverb, PREP stands for preposition, CONJ stands for conjunction, and INTERJ stands for interjection. Although the abbreviation AUX, which stands for auxiliary verb, is not in Table 4.1, a definition and example of an auxiliary verb is. That leaves you with two last abbreviations to learn before you try to understand phrase structure trees, P and S. To understand what those stand for, take a look at the section of Chapter 5 on phrases. In the 5th edition of the textbook, that section starts on page 106. In the 4th edition, it starts on page 114. Here, you'll find out that the P stands for a phrase, which is any constituent of a clause. Phrases are commonly named for one of their main elements. So, for example, an NP is a noun phrase, and a VP is a verb phrase. Speaking of noun phrases and verb phrases, in the same section of Chapter 5, you'll learn that in English, a minimal sentence is made up of those two components. So expressed in abbreviations, an S, which stands for sentence, is composed of an NP plus a VP. So our first step in creating a phrase structure tree to diagram a sentence such as, the astronomy student looked at the absolutely stunning stars, might be to use those abbreviations to identify the lexical category to which each of the words in it belongs. In this specific case, after reviewing the definitions of the 9 lexical categories covered in Chapter 4, you would be able to identify the as a determiner, or DET, astronomy as an adjective, or ADJ, student as a noun, or N, looked as a verb, or V, at as a preposition, or PREP, the as a determiner, or DET, absolutely as an adverb, or ADV, stunning as an adjective, or ADJ, and stars as a noun, or N. You can see another example of this in the section of Chapter 5 called Labeling the Constituents of a Sentence. In the 5th edition, that section starts on page 112. In the 4th edition, it starts on page 121. Second, you need to understand that the branches on the type of sentence diagram called a phrase structure tree are meant to provide a visual illustration of how those words we just labeled with those abbreviations combine into phrases, and how those phrases combine into a sentence. In other words, a phrase structure tree is a representation of the hierarchical structure of language. At the top is the highest level, the most general constituent, the sentence itself, which we now know is abbreviated as S. At the bottom are the lowest level, the most specific constituents, the words. In between those are the constituent structures of the sentences, the phrases that some of those words combine to create. For example, we learned earlier that a minimal sentence in English is made up of a noun phrase, abbreviated NP, and a verb phrase, abbreviated VP. But in this specific sentence, the constituent structures this verb phrase is composed of include a verb, the word looked, and a prepositional phrase, the words at the absolutely stunning stars. The verb is indicated by the abbreviation V, and the prepositional phrase is indicated by the abbreviation PP. This specific prepositional phrase also contains the constituent structures of a preposition, the word at, and a noun phrase, the words the absolutely stunning stars. The preposition is indicated by the abbreviation PREP, and the noun phrase is indicated by the abbreviation NP. This specific noun phrase also contains the constituent structures of a determiner, the word the, an adjective phrase, the words absolutely stunning, and a noun, the word stars. The determiner is indicated by the abbreviation DET. The adjective phrase is indicated by the abbreviation ADJP, and the noun is indicated by the abbreviation N. This specific adjective phrase also contains the constituent structures of an adverb, the word absolutely, and an adjective, the word stunning. The adverb is indicated by the abbreviation ADV, and the adjective is indicated by the abbreviation ADJ. So basically, the branches of this phrase structure tree are illustrating how individual words such as absolutely and stunning combine to form one type of phrase, which then combine with more words, in this case, the and stars, to create another type of phrase, which then combines with more words, in this case, at, to form yet another type of phrase, which then combines with more words, in this case, looked, to form yet another type of phrase, which then combine with more words, in this case, the noun phrase composed of the words the astronomy student, to form a sentence. Third, and finally, you need to understand that phrase structure rules are simply another way to express the hierarchical relationships that were illustrated in your phrase structure tree. To my eye, these rules look a little like the equations you might see in a mathematics class, except that instead of an equal sign, in these expressions you see an arrow. So moving from the top of our phrase structure tree down, I can write our phrase structure rules such as S, arrow, NP, VP, NP, arrow, DET, ADJP, N, VP, arrow, VPP, PP, arrow, PREP, NP, ADJP, arrow, ADV, ADJ. You'll notice that what is written on the left of the arrow is the higher level, more general constituent part. What is written on the right of the arrow are the lower level, more specific constituent parts that make it up. Other sentences that you write that are not the astronomy student looked at the absolutely stunning stars may be described by the same set of phrase structure rules, or they may be described by other rules. For our first discussion for this week, though, you will attempt to write a new sentence that is described by this same set of phrase structure rules. Hopefully, all this information will help you to feel less intimidated by the related topics of phrase structure trees and phrase structure rules.